My first experience with a psycho neighbour. When I first saw this sub recommended to me through my FYP, I knew I had to share this story. Please tell me if you've dealt with something similar. So I had to move to a new apartment back in June, so this happened a little while ago. When I first toured the apartment I was going to be moving in, I saw the old man in question, absolutely miserable looking man. He sat out on a messy backyard of the apartment feeding a horde of stray cats. How fun. I didn't think anything of it until moving day. We arranged a day to move, and I asked my sister-in-law's friends if they could help me move my stuff to this new apartment, and I would pay them for it. My landlord told me to use the backyard to move my furniture because he owns the whole backyard. It's an easement, that's what he called it. So that's what we did. We all met up, and my sister-in-law's friends parked his truck in the backyard. At the time, it was the only way to bring heavy things in, and we began moving furniture to and from. I did exactly what the landlord instructed me to. It was the only way to bring my furniture in. As we were moving things, this crazy old man who I had seen a week prior barged up to the front door of my new apartment, going absolutely insane over my movers parking in the yard, despite the fact that it was literally the only way to get my furniture in, and we were instructed to use it because we had no other options. He was yelling at all of us, calling us all inconsiderate assholes. The movers explained as nicely as they could that the landlord told us to use the yard because he owned it, and that it was an easement, and the only words the crazy old bastard shouted were, "I don't care, I don't care, I don't care." He kept relentlessly shouting at my movers, non-stop, as they were helping me move, borderline harassing us. The movers couldn't leave or step out of my apartment without this psychopath screaming from the top window of his own apartment. By the time the movers started moving the truck out, the neighbour began threatening to kill us with his gun. My mother, the movers, and myself. At this point, I asked the movers if I should call the police, but the movers insisted everything was fine and that they were leaving. I felt absolutely awful. I was an idiot for not calling the police. I should have gotten this old nutcase's actions on record, but I didn't want the movers to feel pressured to talk to cops either. I was so conflicted on what I should do. Eventually, the movers did leave, and as soon as they left, the psychopath neighbour put up a big gated fence on his backyard that says no trespassing on it, despite it literally being owned by my landlord. The fence is still there to this day. I told the landlord all about it right after it happened, and he called the man to tell him that he owns the backyard and that it wasn't cool. The old man kissed up to my landlord, even claiming "you made the whole street look beautiful," buttering him up so the landlord is convinced the old man was just cranky that day. Still irritates the shit out of me. I absolutely hate that neighbour. I want to move strictly because of him. I hate that he's my neighbour, and I have my whole window to the backyard blocked so I can't see his crazy ass and his wife and his horde of stray cats that he feeds. That was my story. Just experienced my first crazy neighbour this year. I definitely won't forget it. I have an interesting story about my psychic neighbour. BTW, I'm a skeptic. Typically, I want to start this by saying that I was a very scientifically driven child. I believed and still believe that paranormal experiences must have some kind of explanation. I'm currently of a mindset that parallel universes would explain a lot of encounters, and electrical/magnetic connections that we have as humans would play into a lot of situations. Of course, it's all theoretic, and if solidly disproven, I'd acquiesce. However, I think everyone has varying connections to the world and can interact in different ways. My neighbour of now 13 years is one of those very connected people. So, though we've been joined at a wall for many years, duplex, we're both pretty reclusive households. I knew her name and waved at her a few times before this interaction, and my now husband had met her just once, very shortly before the encounter. I moved in 2008, my boyfriend/hubby moved in late August of 2015. Very shortly after moving in, neighbour introduced herself to hubby. So one day hubby is downstairs and I'm upstairs. I heard the doorbell and froze since I hate the doorbell and do that panic quiet thing. I hear hubby answer the phone and start talking to someone. I couldn't hear details but muffled voices in different tones. After the visitor left, I went downstairs to figure out what happened. Neighbour was there when hubby answered. She was a little excited and seemingly confused. She asked hubby what his name was again, asked if his middle name was Michael. Hubby says no. Neighbour asks if maybe his father, a brother or an uncle was named Michael. Hubby says no again and asks why. She explains she received a message. She needs to deliver this message. To him, the message was, "Dad says it's okay, it's gonna be alright." Hubby is confused. He offers that maybe it's another neighbour, maybe the store down the street. It sounds like an employee's name, but he can't be sure. She's polite and thanks him for the suggestions. And we don't hear anything else about it until 2018. Hubby and I have done ancestry DNA tests. I've made a concerted effort to find his dad's biological family. We've connected with Felez's maternal side, but not paternal. I've got to mention here that Felez and hubby had a strained relationship for many years and hadn't talked till 2017, so they weren't in contact at the time of the neighbour's message. Anyway, so one day a close enough relative pops up on the DNA matches for me to figure out the most likely immediate family. Basically, after seeing a picture of the guy I narrowed it down to, there is zero doubt in my mind about this guy being my husband's biological grandfather. Armed with this info, I eventually pin down the only living brother of my Phil. I send him a message and talk to him on a call. I try hard to convince him that this has to be, and he can know for himself if he gets a test. But he's concerned. He's probably convinced, but he's very wary of shaking things up since his father has passed and his mother is alive. The timeline could be hurtful to father's memory, if you catch my drift. So he stays at a distance for a long time. Not quite admitting it, but not in denial. One day in, I'm talking to Neighbour via text, and then I remember a passing light bulb moment I'd had not long after contacting hubby's new uncle. I ask if she recalls her premonition and the message. She does, verbatim. She has it written, in fact, and will give it to me if she confess across it. She lolls and mentions that she didn't talk to anyone hubby suggested. She knew the message was for him. She doesn't seem wowed a huge amount by the news I'm about to give her. Her response is more of an acknowledgement. I tell her about our search for family and that hubby's uncle is named Michael. She knew, his dad presumably said it was okay. I'm scared Michael will think I'm a bit nuts if I tell him this story, but I wish I could give him the neighbour's message. Unfortunately, FAL passed about a year ago without knowing his father's side. But hubby and his sister are aware, and everyone is connected now via social media, but damn, she knew. To be clear, this isn't the only weird experience with her knowing, and no, she can't hear us and we can't hear her. Not to mention, there's no way we would have known Uncle's name 2 years before even testing. We're losing our home at the end of September, and I'm gonna miss her. Thinking I should ask for a reading, she used to do phone readings years ago. I saw my neighbour's murdered husband. Okay, so I had typed out something earlier, but it was too messy, so I deleted it and decided to just make several posts. I was like 11 or around that age, and I had a friend that was also my neighbour. Her mum was friends with my mum and dad, and we were all close. Well, after some time she moved out, and new people moved in. They introduced themselves to my mum and told her their backstory. They actually lived a couple blocks down from where we lived. At first we thought they were a couple, but it was actually a woman living with her father-in-law. Her husband had been murdered by thieves not too long ago, before they moved next door. They still had the man's car, and they told us how sometimes the radio would turn on by itself and play his favourite kind of music. My mum and I didn't think much of it, but we did feel sorry for her loss. Well, sometime later I got one of those big inflatable pools, and we had it in our backyard. It's important to keep in mind I shared my backyard with my neighbour, with the only thing separating the two was the fence in between, but it had a gate that you could open to get to the other side. The pool was up and had water in it, and I invited some friends to come and play. We were having a good time hanging out and playing, but for some reason I had this feeling of uneasiness because I kept seeing shadowy figures in my peripheral vision. When I looked at them directly, they would disappear, but reappear once I took my eyes off. It almost seemed like they were jumping from one place to another, but I tried to ignore it. After some time of us playing in the water and swimming, my friends kind of grow quiet, and I ask what's up. They point to the shed on our neighbour's side of the yard and tell me they saw something, and they tell me to go see if someone is there. I got up and went to go check, and I saw a shadow clear as day on the door of the shed. There, it was walking, and it had a hat and a bottle in its hand. But there was no one. It couldn't have been anyone from the sidewalk either, because the whole backyard area was enclosed by a fence, and each side, my side and the neighbours, had a gate to get in. If there was someone there, they would have to be inside the gate, like standing in the backyard, for there to be a shadow. But nope, there was no one there. I went back to my friends and told them there was someone there just to keep them from getting scared, and they continued to play. I think I remember telling my neighbour, and she told me her husband usually wore a hat because he worked in construction and he used it to block out the sun,